Good evening. Thanks for having me here. Alistair's a bit of a hero of mine, so it's nice to be here. This is me. This was sort of me, kid on the loo. And when I was on the loo in my parents' freezing cold upstairs toilet, I had this thought and decided I wanted to have adventures in my life. I don't know what happened on the loo, but it did. I started riding horse riding straight after this, and I learnt to ride. And I always dreamt of journeying through the woods. Quite a romantic idea. Things were a little less romantic at home. That's my bedroom on the top left. Our house burnt down. My mum was really ill with depression, and my dad left home. It wasn't, that's not funny or anything, so don't laugh at that bit. But things got better though, don't worry, it's a happy ending. Things weren't so romantic at home. When I was about 20, I sort of stopped riding overnight. I sort of went to uni, and I moved up to the Lake District, so that was a great move, and started working for an outward bound company and all that sort of thing. But I always had this kind of quite destructive boulder in me that was problematic in my life, and I decided I needed to get some help, so I thought I'd just check into therapy for a little while. About 6 years later, I finished therapy, and that was good. I'd grafted pretty hard on that couch, and I went through quite, I don't want to call it an epiphany, but I did have quite a big shift in me. And where this boulder was, I had this kind of creative space in me, and I decided that I wanted to use that wisely, that space, and life really started to wink at me. You know, you get that feeling sometimes like serendipity starts happening and life starts winking at you, and it started winking at me, and this pony, it didn't just wink at me, she sort of nibbled my ear the first time I met her, actually. And I'd always had this dream of riding through the wilderness with my horse and wild camping with my dog, and that was something I'd wanted to do since I was kind of that big, and I just wanted to make that happen, and I decided I was going to do it. And I met this guy called Tom. He had a horse. He's here tonight, actually, and he had a horse called Pansy. I didn't name her, and Pansy was a fell pony. She was small, scruffy, and about 4 years old, and completely unbroken. And I had about 3 months to break her in and get all my kit sorted and get on. So I got on with it. She wasn't exactly Black Beauty, but she was free, and I had a horse, so that was a good thing. Horseback adventures without horses aren't quite as good. So this was us setting off on the 1st of May last year. So we went a whole month, like Alistair said. I took a month off work after begging and pleading, and they gave me the month off, and we set off on the 1st of May. The best May on record ever. It was quite lucky. Again, life was winking at me, and I was very lucky on this trip. So we set off, and we went very much at our own pace. The first week was planned, and after that, I sort of made it up, really, which I quite like doing. I'm not a big planner, and it wasn't long before we were going pretty feral. So sort of washing in rivers, just drinking out of rivers as well, and sleeping in valleys, and like with the smell of wood smoke in our hair, it was pretty lovely, actually. And at night, I'd fall asleep to the sound of Pansy grazing next to my tent, and Finn next to my side, and sleeping with one eye open. So pretty special trip, all in all. But not it was quite dangerous as well in places. So we had to be pretty careful in terms of if a horse breaks its leg, we all know that it's curtains. So it was quite a big responsibility taking these two animals, but so worth it. If anyone's got a dog, I recommend going for a very, very long walk with them. It's brilliant fun. But to do this on horseback was a total dream come true. And we did 250 miles around the Lake District. By the way, that's only 3 hours up the road up the railway on a train. So it's not far away. And we did 250 miles. We went over mountain passes, through remote valleys. And this is actually a picture of us going up Helvellyn, which is one of the biggest mountains in England. And quite surprised people at the top of that mountain, for sure. We actually cantered to the top like something out of Black Beauty. And when we got to the top, everyone was just looking very confused. But honestly, I have never seen like a horse so thrilled. She genuinely was right on board with it. So before before I left, I said to Tom, how will I know if Pansy's too tired to go on? And he just kind of had a smile and said, don't worry, you'll find out. And this is exactly what happens. They just stop. They don't go anywhere. They just go, oh, I'm just stopping, and you'll just have to get off and wait. So I had to wait for her to have her 40 winks, and Finn fell asleep, and actually I had to sleep too, which actually is true. And then that was the thing about our trip. It was very much about going slow. I think in other talks you're going to hear about people going fast and hard. My trip was not, I don't go fast and hard. I like to go slow, and I like sleeping. And I also like just having time to meet people and talk with people and not have to rush off. And I didn't want to be on any schedule. I wanted to go at our own pace, and that was a beautiful pace. And when you go at a slow pace, you see wildlife. And I had evenings watching owls. I watched a badger set one evening, and all the badgers coming out. We saw just so much beautiful wildlife, and hares and deer and foxes. And that's what happens when you go slow. And then we started to come back, and we started to head towards home, and we weren't far away. This is me and Pansy just having a quiet moment. And actually, I was feeling pretty sad about coming home and definitely not wanting to go back to work. That's definitely the downside to taking a month off work when you have to come back to work. But it was quite an incredible trip. And for me, it was a rite of passage. I think I really, after all the hardship of all the stuff that had happened in my life before and all the therapy that I'd really worked hard at, it was like drawing a line in the sand. And I was so rewarded by this experience. And then this is us on the very last night. We were camped up above a place called Tarn House, which is just beautiful. We had the whole of the mountains on view where we were bivvying out, and it was a pretty special night. A few tears that night from me. Dogs and horses don't cry. But and actually in the morning I woke up and I slept out on the grass, and I had Finn was asleep on one side, and Pansy was asleep lying down on the other side of me. It was quite special, really. So this is, just a little bit behind schedule. So it had been a pretty amazing trip. I was very lucky in lots of different ways. But my thing is that you have to go out and meet luck halfway, and I really felt that I did do that. I was really lucky, but I think you have to go out and meet luck halfway. So definitely talk to people who encourage you. Don't listen to anyone who tells you it's a fairy tale, and definitely follow those little winks in life when people you feel like something's winking at you, just go for it. So you can come and find us at the Fell Pony stand, as it says up there. Sorry, bit of a promotion. But if anyone wants to do anything like this, we've just started doing it in the Lake District, so come and have a chat with us. Thank you.